Okay. Okay. So let's forget about that altogether and tell me, you pissed someone off.
Yeah, well,
Did you piss someone
a
off?
few
Did someone
people.
piss you off? Okay.
Well, that's a part of what I want to look at, because I've kind of reached the point of like, well, how much do I take? How much do I change or apologize or address it or whatnot? So there's a few different things.
Okay.
The main
Give
one
me.
is so for like 17 years that we've had a mortgage, I've had this one particular mortgage broker who happens to be married to my cousin. And Cam and I have sort of reached an age where we want to start, getting things sorted. And so we've decided to switch our mortgage over to a different person because they're going to can't offer. And he was really pissed off. And he sent me like a massive long email, and he's angry. And so, yeah, there's that one. Another one. So
Okay.
this season, I coached netball, and then my daughter has joined the end of a summer comp, and so I'm not coaching, and I know I'm not coaching. But after the game, I went up to this particular girl who's a bit low in confidence because she'd had a really good game, and I told her everything that I thought she did well, and how the difference that she made to the team. And it was like 28-0. Our team scored 0. And so the
Okay.
girls were all a bit low. Anyway, the
Yeah.
mum didn't like it. And so I've
Wait.
pissed off
The
that
mum
mum.
didn't like. Wait. The mum didn't like you saying to this particular girl that she did a good job.
Yeah, I was using a coach's voice, and maybe I was out of line.
Okay.
But I get really excited with netball. Like, I love it. So I was excited.
Yeah.
And another one, so you know what we've been going through with my brother.
Yeah.
And his partner, and they're in a really tough place. They are really struggling, and they involved me. And then a couple of weeks ago, I just sort of got cut off, and I didn't know what I had done wrong, and to the point of being physically avoided. Zero response to text messages, just reading them but not even responding. It not 1 or 2 messages, I'm talking like 8 messages. I should have stopped messaging, but when you think somebody's struggling and they've asked for support with the kids and stuff, I didn't know whether to back off or continue to be open, until I was very obviously physically avoided, like she was going behind the bushes and So
Okay.
they're
Well,
pissed off with me.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah. And so I'm kind of in this place of like, at what point do I say, you can't treat me like that?
Yeah.
But then I'm going to be
Wow.
the bad guy because they're struggling. So yeah, I'm just kind of in this place at the moment of like, wow, because I know doing this work for a while, I'm not holding myself back as much. I am being more myself without thinking, and it's causing problems. So it's kind of challenging, here I am, I turn up every week and do, probably 3 sessions a week plus my own work. My goal is to be myself. And here I'm kind of doing it, and it's pissing people off. So yeah, I'm just kind of sitting with this at the moment of like feeling like I want to say something, which wouldn't have even crossed my mind before. I'm sorry, grovel, grovel, grovel. And I'm not doing any of that. But I haven't actually said to anybody, it's not okay to treat me like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So, okay, interesting. I definitely have a reciprocal sort of thought. One thought that just comes into my mind is, in general, I guess I'm talking to myself here too. I think in general, if we go one way with something, it's natural once we sort of let go of that way to swing the other way quite heavily. If we haven't said something, then naturally we go the other way and we like throw things quite a lot. But then there's a problem of getting stuck on that side too. I've seen that quite a lot where people get stuck on, like there's some things you just don't say to people. It's because it would hurt you to say it. It's not about the idea of like expressing and it's because it would hurt you to hurt them in that way. So that's what comes into my mind to start with. But the thing that you said that resonates with me, that's going on for me at the moment, is this last part about being sort of ghosted, I think is the term for it. And so what's happening for me at the moment is I've asked this sort of friend of mine to help me with a podcast idea I've got. I don't know if I've spoken to you about it, but I asked this particular person because I'm doing it in a different sort of way. I thought, this person is a good person to, that would be open enough, but not so stuck on their ideas and would be able to help. And I had a conversation with them, and yes, it was fine. I said to them that it's not a normal sort of podcast. I'm not so interested in what story you've got. I'm interested in exploring beliefs that we have together, and noticing where we're suffering and moving in that way. And so anyway, he was like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds great. Let's do it. And then we met again about 2 weeks ago, and he said to me at the end that, hey, I'll check the schedule and I'll get back to you about a time to do it. And he's basically just forgotten about it. And I'd sent him a few messages, not specifically about, when to do it, because I didn't want to pressure him into giving a time or anything, but just a few sort of messages to say, hey, I'm still here. And this is, I was directing him to some things which are similar, or that might help us, because the idea is still formulating. But he just took forever to respond, and he never responded directly and said, hey, this is a good time to do this. And he never sort of mentioned it again. And so I started to get a bit frustrated. It's been 2 weeks. I was looking forward to doing the first podcast, and I sent another message to him, and he sent something back, and it was just like he just completely sort of forgot about it, and or didn't want to do it. And I sent him a message saying, hey, what's the story? Are you having second thoughts? And he was like, no, I just, I'm a bit busy, and so there's another part of this too, in that we've got this sort of past together, because we've done some work together. We did some training and some learning actually to do this inquiry together. And as we were going through, there came this point where he just like left all of a sudden. We were doing sessions together a couple of times a week, and then all of a sudden he just left, and there was no message or no, hey, I'm leaving this, or, I don't want to do this anymore, or, sort of exactly what you're saying about this ghosting. And so there's a part of me that's still holding that, I guess. And so, naturally when he wasn't responding to any of these kind of messages that I was sending, I had this feeling of like, oh, we're back here again, where he's just going to sort of move away and not say anything. And so I just sent him a message and said, hey, what about this thing? You said that you were going to do this, and he was trying to sort of turn it around. He wasn't apologizing or anything about forgetting, what he'd said, and not the main thing was about not going through with making a plan to, make a time to do this. Yeah. So it left me quite, angry, frustrated maybe is a better word. It left me quite frustrated, and feeling like, I guess he just doesn't sort of care, and wanting him to just be honest with me about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so your sort of question is what's your responsibility of these things? He's a funny dude too, because he's sort of smart, but he was justifying things and then he would just turn it back in on me, rather than say, hey man, I'm sorry I forgot, or hey man, at the start I thought that I was, interested in doing this, but now I'm not, or,
Yeah.
um, do you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I know what you
So
mean. Absolutely. It's like the hot and cold. Like 1 minute it's hot
yeah,
and you're like, yeah, we've got this connection, and then it's just cold.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, for you, like how do we start this? I noticed that there was a pattern when I sort of confronted him. There was a pattern in his responses, that there was this justification. Oh, I've got ADHD and da 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 da, and oh, you could have done this. And then, hey, and then at the end, there was this sort of blame, like, what's it saying about you that, there was this kind of pattern. And I was like, and I was a bit that this is not kind of the normal way that people interact. If you and I had made a plan to make an appointment and I'd forgotten about it, I would just be like, I would be sorry. I'd be, hey, I'm sorry I put you out, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like this lack of honesty, and there's a part of me that wants to, as you say, like keep sorry. It's like I got four things going off at the same time. Yeah, there's a part of me that just wants to say, hey, okay, enough. I notice that this is how you are in this regard, and it's not something I necessarily need to be around. But then also there's a part of me that recognizes that, hey, there's some trigger here. Maybe there's some thing that I haven't finished with the emotion of like the leaving, or so I don't know. How do we start
It's like,
this?
at what point do you say enough? Yeah. How do we start this?
I guess as well, like there's a part of me, because actually where you started also was interesting, because there was a part of you that was angry and wanted to, express that anger. So I'm going to start there, Alison, because I noticed I was quite measured in the responses. I took a bit of time to give them, but if I just go straight for it and say in this moment what it was that made me, what it was that I thought about this person, and the word that comes up for me is callous. They were a bit callous in their treatment of me. And so I'm letting that feeling generate in my body, that sense of someone disrespecting and being callous towards me, and I feel it in the middle of the belly, and it's coming up as a little bit of not indigestion but reflux. It's coming up as a little feeling of reflux in the back of the throat. And I've got the feeling too to just express a little bit. So I might just let that sort of voice come out of, hey, you've treated me wrongly in this regard. And I can see that there's a venom to it as well. There's a real rage that's underlying of this, of being treated in this way. And then, okay, and then as that sort of is there, I don't really like I'm not sure I can engage it fully, but I notice that there's a sense underneath that of just not being cared about.
Mm.
And that rage is a way to get away from that feeling of not being cared about. So then I let that come in, and I notice it across the shoulders, a little feeling of depression, and I see an image in my mind of me that's not being cared about and maybe not being loved in this moment with this person. And then also in that image, I see them in the image, sort of looking at me benignly without any interest or sort of care. And then actually, you know what else? I noticed that there's a sense. So it's, I mean, sorry to keep going a little bit. But I've noticed that the roles have changed in my mind very quickly. So there's a sense of me coming over to him when he's feeling that way, and being a particular way, and that I'm seeing that in neither position of like of it's a little bit hard to explain, but I'm seeing that neither position of going into someone to give them comfort as an idea, as well as like hanging back and not giving someone comfort as an idea, is sort of a good thing in this moment. They're the same sort of thing, actually. What about you, mate? How's it going for you? I can just sit there with that.
Yeah, so for me, first, when I think about 3 situations, and yeah, it's the same belief. It's that they don't care about me.
Yeah.
If they cared about me, the relationship would come first, and then business. And yeah, I can feel that sort of in my behind my eyes and in my throat, the feeling of sadness. And what sort of comes with that when I look at that is this feeling of fear, because if it's okay for others to not put the relationship first, yeah, it just brings up fear. I just feel that all through my skin.
Yeah. Is it like, can you go a bit further with that? Is it because it leaves you in a particular place,
With the fear.
not being cared? I'm sorry?
Yeah, so the fear is linked to this belief that nobody cares about me. Oh, yeah, it's a feeling of unsafety, because yeah, and this is like going back to my birth family now. There's this realization that I can't always be good and I can't always be perfect, and so that means that over and over, I'm going to do the wrong thing, and I'm going to feel that nobody cares about me. Yeah, it's like an insecurity. Yeah. and then, yeah, as I'm sort of being with that, I can feel this like, I suppose it's sort of an anger or an unfairness, like, oh, I can't get it right. And at the same time, like, what about me? Sort of mainly look at sister.
Is there, like, it sounds a bit like you're coming from a particular age. Does that come through?
Yeah, I feel young, like younger than 10. And so as I'm being with this, sort of looking at this, it's a big, mild pain sort of in my whole chest area, like feeling hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can stay with the hurt if you'd like to go.
So I guess the thing that comes in for me is this opposite part of it again. Like because of this, because of having this action of being loved and moving with the parents, that it comes with this feeling of like acceptance and safety. It's the other side of the coin that's here for me in this moment. And I see that, there's this desire to please and go along with things, to feel this way. And like, I noticed that it's the same movement, it's just looking at it from different ends of the scale. And even though I prefer the feeling of being accepted and loved and safe, it's still another trap, because as you said, I can't be that way all the time and be true to myself, because there are going to be times when I'm a shit, and then what happens is I bring back into this sort of, it was interesting, I was a little bit there with you, but then it came back in this friend of mine that's sort of been a particular way, and I'm just watching this kind of response and interaction happen in the mind, and there's a feeling of like, I should just let this go, that the person and the situation and kind of what I want out of the whole thing, it's not there, and that if I keep going back to it, it's just going to bring this sort of disappointment. And in this moment, I feel the disappointment. It's come it's come fully into the system, and I feel it in the belly. And actually, there's no running away from it in this moment. There's no scampering to make it go away, and I'm okay that it's here. I'm okay that I feel disappointed and frustrated. I see that it's tied to this idea of the future, like of doing something and the repercussions of not doing the podcast in this moment. And I see that's tied to this big story about what could be and what should be. And there's insight about that too, that okay, that because the feeling is wrong, the intent is a little bit askew at the moment. It's all indicating that, hey, this is just, feel this and just let it go, and the time will come when the time is better and it's more appropriate. And I don't know, it's a little bit hard because it's quite broad, the insight I'm getting. There's many strands to it, but if I come back just to this disappointment, it's really like there's a kindness to it too, actually, in sitting here, because it sort of comes in that, this is not your fault, this is not really an indication of me being not good enough or not being wanted. It's just an indication of the intent being wrong. It's not sort of personal to me. It's a bit wrong to say that, because it is. I feel it personally, but it's not because I'm bad or wrong. And I'm waffling a little bit, but I can just sit now with that feeling. It's just like slowly, I notice that the story's all gone, and it's just slowly settling, and it's okay that it's here. I'm happy to hear what's happening for you.
All right. Yeah, so I was just staying with that feeling that I was calling hurt, and it was getting bigger. See, sort of to the side, a very familiar mechanism of you then, if you all. And I didn't fully go to it. I could just sort of see it there, and I thought, yeah, that's what I do. And it actually made the hurt worse. Like it made the pain worse. And I sort of realized that when I do that, it hurts me. Yeah, that the pain is back. He's still there?
Yep. Sorry, I just hit the mute, that's all.
Oh, did you? And that's not helpful, and that's not what I want. And that's what I do to protect myself. So I was able to leave that and come back to this feeling of hurt, even though I didn't like it. And around that time was when you said that you saw that it wasn't your fault, or it wasn't because you were bad. And I had a big charge when you said that, because I was believing that it's my fault and that it's because of me. There's something wrong with me that I get myself in these situations. But just seeing that that's what I was believing was enough to realize that I'm not bad. Yeah, I'm not intentionally pissing these people off. And the other thing was a part of my hurt or my disappointment or whatever was that these people weren't putting the relationship first. And I had this thought, well, if I'm not telling everyone to fuck off to protect myself, then I can be doing that with myself and with them if I want to.
Yeah.
I can put the relationship first. And that feels much more powerful, much less of a victim, and much more in alignment with me. So even though it hurts, I can still have my own integrity.
Yeah.
And still choose my interaction. And that's actually a much more grounded feeling than I had before, of being the victim. Poor me. What am I going to do? This is like, I can just keep being me. And in the body, I feel a lot more space. I still have some pain in my chest, but it's not big. It's more localized. And I feel much more in my body. And I'll just stay here if you'd like to go.
Two things that you said that sort of like were interesting to me. One was this, when you were saying "fuck you," and that it affected the sensation. There was this recognition within me that again, it's funny because I keep saying the same thing. It's like the knowledge of it is not enough. It has to keep being re-experienced as an insight. But in my mind or in my system, I could see that "fuck you" was not only to your parents or to whoever was that was outside of you that you could sort of put that towards, but it was also "fuck you" to the sensation of being hurt, and there was that sort of inward blame of the sensation. I thought that was very interesting. The second thing that you said that was quite interesting, it was about this kind of empowerment, that in some way you felt more empowered, that there was more space sort of when you were with this sensation of hurt, and that also that you could see that you weren't bad in that moment, and that made me sort of think about bringing in this other people. Do I still see that this person was bad in this moment? What's my part of the reason that I feel angry and frustrated is because I feel this person's doing something wrong, that they're bad, and now that I've seen that I'm sort of innocent of this, I wonder what my perception of them is in this moment. So you reminded me of that, and as I sort of bring them into my mind, it's interesting because it actually goes back to this first interaction that we had together where they just left, and there is still something there from that. I still feel a reaction to it, and the reaction is a little bit of shock, to be honest. Okay, and I don't know how this fits into it, Alison, but I see the same thing happen to you with the netball lady. The mum coming over to you and saying, "What the fuck are you saying to my daughter?" It puts you into this bit of shock, and I feel that this same sense of shock of this person just all of a sudden like leaving, and there's a little sense in the back of this might be a little bit with my dad as well, when my parents got divorced, and I think he probably left in that same sort of way, so I'm sort of connecting to this. I mean, it's imagination, but there must be something to it, because there's a feeling to it. So I connect to this young me in the crib that is all of a sudden there's that sense of not having the dad there anymore, and there's a shock to that. And then I'm sure that there's many, okay, so there's a few other, there's an old girlfriend leaving, and the shock of that, it was so sudden. And there's a bit of grief here too, maybe, that hasn't been felt. like a loss, sense of loss. I can hear this little justification start happening too. You know, when you're with someone and you're so, like with a girlfriend, you're deeply in love, and then even with this friend, you know, we were doing sessions once or twice a week, so there was this depth to our interaction, and you know, all of a sudden that just going, there's a little feeling of grief. Okay, also the grandparents and things like that, people that have died suddenly. Huh. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just letting this wash of kind of memories and, you know, instances of this happen be here. And then even, it's funny, it even projects into the future a little bit. I notice that I can't hide, like I can't stop life from moving in this way of something being here one day, okay, and something like leaving the next day. And actually what happens is my wife comes into this. And there's the thought of this happening with her, you know, that one day she's here, the next day she's gone. And it's something that's really palpable. Like I really feel a sense of sadness and loss. And I can just sit with this, Alison.
Oh, gee. So I followed along with what you were doing. Went back into childhood, and what came up for me is that, you know, when you're a kid and you're carefree and you're having fun and you're being loud or whatever, and then you just get out of the blue sort of punished or told off, and then you're left with that sort of awkward, crushed feeling that and that's what's coming up. And it's like a humiliation for forgetting yourself. Like, how could I have been so stupid as to forget myself and been so loud or been so silly or been so... And I can see that I am doing that to myself in these situations. Like, how did I forget myself enough to have allowed myself to be in this situation? And there's a feeling like just a not knowing, like, what do you do in that awkwardness after? Being really uncomfortable. Like, I just want to squirm, like the thought of bumping into these people in the community again. And the same way when I was a kid, that the squirm of not knowing how to repair the relationship after you'd been, you know, told off for something or punished for something, has the same resonance. It's in the chest as well. I mean, the uncomfortableness and the ickiness is everywhere. Like the shame is like, ugh. But the main energy is in my chest. And when you mentioned grief, just at that very same moment, I had the feeling of loss. And it wasn't the fact of anybody physically leaving. It's the loss of feeling that depth and that feeling of being valued and valuing somebody else. And that sense of loss is when you still value them, but you feel that that value isn't reciprocated. For me, that's where the loss is.
Mm.
And yeah, the whole thing, like the childhood, realizing that this is the same thing I'm doing to myself as I did in childhood. In each of them now and back then, there's an essence of humiliation there. For allowing myself to not hold myself back, hold myself in, watch myself.
Mm.
And it's like, yeah, in the face and the tops of the shoulders and up here. Mm. And yeah, it's not really progressing forward from there if you wanted to go.
Well, it's like, I mean, I appreciate you bringing the humiliation part into it, because that was sort of the next part for me. With this friend, there was, exactly as you say, this sense of like being humiliated, and then, you know, like you also talked about this kind of groveling at the start, and I got that sense in myself at the moment. There's this kind of groveling to get around this thing, and that has this sense of humiliation as well. That I can't sort of just break something off without trying to keep it, basically. And then, you know, the awkwardness of, you know, being around people that you felt have done wrong by you, and, or that, yeah, as you say, don't value you in the same way. And it's almost like being tricked. Like I feel a bit like I've been tricked by this person again. And yeah, so I'm just finding that, okay, well, for me, it comes the question, just to get quiet, and what's the experience of that humiliation? And I notice it's in the lower part of the back, and I see the image of me kind of sitting in the same position that I'm in at the moment, and the head's down, and you know, there's like a hiding and a not wanting to feel the sensation. But as I sit with the sensation, the image, it sort of it it doesn't change. Like I still see the image of me there, humiliated, and it's not so nice. But um, it, as I stay with it, actually, what happens is it's a bit like I'm sitting on a bench somewhere, you know, and I'm just like, fuck, you know, this has happened again, and and then actually what happens is sort of just people come and, like, you know, rest their hand on my shoulder, and it's not the people that have humiliated me, it's other people, it's other, um, like a surprise almost, other people in that I wouldn't expect to do it, just come up and sort of console me, and and then I bring in the image of a few of these people, these memories where I feel like I've been humiliated, or like let go of, or whatever, and there's still this sense of anger and rage, and that comes in, and that comes into the sensation as well. I feel a real tightness in the lower part of the back, like, fuck you, kind of thing, and then it alternates back to this humiliation and defeat. Um, it's got the sensation in the jaws of clenching the teeth a little bit in the anger. Yeah, and so I'm just sort of being here and allowing different perspectives of that humiliation come in, different images I see of myself. Something that you were saying too just reminded me to look for any sort of escapes at the moment, escapes from this. The squirming was to get away from the sensation for me. And I notice as I sit in the feeling and just let the mind open, that there's no escape. I don't notice any numbness or shock or retaliation even. And I don't notice it sinking down into a depression or anything either. Like I don't feel a dwelling on the humiliation. It's just me, here with the humiliation. And no, I'm waffling again, mate, so jump in here, please.
Yeah, so what sort of happened for me at first was having quite focused on me being the one that didn't want to lose relationship, and me the one being not valued and everything. It was becoming quite an intricate. And then a couple of memories popped up of some instances where I have left some relationships.
Mm.
And the intensity kind of went away, and it's kind of like, oh, yes. It goes both ways. One in particular, one person in particular does come up where I'd gone quite deep into this relationship, and then found myself backing it out because she would talk about people behind their back. So I was convinced that she would be talking about me behind my back. I started away. Yeah, it does go both ways. And then just at the end there, I was trying to come back when you said about the squirming as an escape. I was just coming back to that feeling of, just that awkwardness when you first, say, bump into or engage with the person again.
Mm.
And just sort of curious what it is that I was escaping from. And I can see that I believe, it might not be true because I've seen these other things come up with other people, but I believe that I'm the one there. I'm open. If you'll take me back, I'll take you back. And it's a pattern. But the alternative, I don't know about. Yeah, it's an unknown. Yeah, I sort of just have these questions now. I feel this yeah, it's sort of in my upper chest now. It's kind of like a burning. And I'm wondering, actually, as I'm sort of in this unknown space, I can feel a movement forwards of wanting to control things, wanting to have a plan, just wanting everything to be okay, no matter what, just so that I don't feel that awkwardness.
Mm.
So the thought or the idea of, could I just feel awkward around these people forever? Ugh.
Do you see them in your mind, like there? I'm wondering about the three different situations. What happens if you
Yeah, well,
after you?
oh no, I'm listening.
Oh no, I'm just curious to know, like, what happens, what if they come into your mind, if they are there and you have to meet them again.
Yeah, well, what's here right now is the idea that I don't know if I'm going to be open, if they're going to be open, and the awkwardness is here, the squirming is here. It's strong.
Yeah.
And if that's just the way it is, if there is no, making up just so that I don't feel this feeling, without going to the fuck you, without going to the forgive me, just staying in the middle, it's very,
Yeah.
very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Give it some space, mate. Notice the space that's around the sensation.
I notice that there's a belief there that none of it's up to me. I don't have a say. It's all up to them. They get to decide. Yes, like I'm right down into my belly, right up here. Oh. So what's happening now is like this really strong nausea. And yeah, I am fucking disgusted. Oh, yeah, like anger, really angry.
Breathe.
Hatred. Just relaxing. What's here right now is really strong energies have kind of regulated, and I feel regulated.
Yeah.
And there's a lot less interest. There's a lot less interest in these others right now. Just
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm happy for you to go. I just sit with this great feeling.
Oh wow, that was quite interesting. Quite interesting to hear that. So what's here for me, or what came for me, was, um, I come back to this interaction with this person, uh, and I see the image of them in my mind, and like there's a recognition that, you know what, this is right, which is interesting. I don't get that feeling very often, or maybe I'm not aware of this feeling of like, okay, this is right, and there's this kind of like adieu, goodbye, that happens in my mind, and the image of them just like just goes, sort of just fades, gets really small, goes all the way back, and just fades into nothing, and there's no sense of anger, there's no sense of loss. Um, there's even no real need to understand where he's coming from, which is quite a thing for me. Generally in these sort of sessions, it always goes to the other side. And definitely I resonated with you when you said that, you could see yourself on the other side. Although it didn't happen in this session, last night, as I was thinking about it while going to sleep, I let into my mind the times where I've said goodbye to people, and like I was quite specific in my mind of like, okay, what about this person, and what about that person, and I recognized that I was able to say goodbye to them most of the time. And maybe I'd say, right, I'm leaving today, and then I'd say to them, goodbye, and I'd be gone. And I can see how that could be troubling if a few people I'd spent 3 or 4 years together with, and I just left all of a sudden. But for whatever reason, in this moment, I don't need to understand where he's coming from. I don't need to investigate his different, messages, even though I can see a pattern in it of like blame and not taking responsibility. I don't need those things at the moment. It's enough to just be able to say, okay, I'm not going to go back here in this way, in this moment with this person, and I still love them, which is interesting. Oh, it's nice too. It's right in that sensation, this feeling of love. I still love them, but I just don't want to interact with them in this way. Um, okay, and then now kicks in this, like the sense of me that is them. I still love that part of me that interacts in that way, but it's just, it's not something that I want to keep coming back to. No. Mm. How are you?
Yeah, no, I feel that that there doesn't need to be a plan. This is sort of what I feel. There doesn't need to be a plan, and be everybody's best friend. Yeah, I feel that, like, this feeling of just wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
Instead of a frantic kind of energy, it's more of a like.
Yeah, it's more like.
Did it cut out? Oh, it might have cut out. Yeah. So before it was like this frantic energy of not understanding, have I done something wrong? Am I going to lose them? To sort of just feeling like, well, we'll just see what the future holds. I have the capacity to feel whatever happens. So I don't need to be planning and worrying and squirming.
Yeah. That's a deep thing too, hey? Like the recognition that, oh, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Yeah.
And I love that we can both.
Yeah. And everything I've been
like,
trying to avoid, I've just felt.
Yeah, you went through the whole process. Yeah. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna I don't know what I'm gonna do. Can I pause this? Oh no, that's gonna shit me a bit. Okay. Hey, I'm just gonna I just want to pause it. How do I pause it? I don't know. Is there some way that we can have just a little conversation without everyone else? All these thousands of people that are watching.
I'll ring you back. I'll ring you on Messenger for a quick chat.
Hey, I'll just end it. Wait. What if I do this? No, I don't know. I don't know how to pause it. Okay, but hey, I'll just end it.